afternoon, everyone, those who attended. For this afternoon, we will be having our talk, which is navigating venture capital. So, joining us today is a startup advisor and venture strategist who works closely with founders and investors across the Philippine startup ecosystem. He is the founder of Bullet Consulting, a founding member and held screening at Manila Angels Investor Network, director of venture strategy at Gravitas Prime, and director at Founders Institute Philippines. He has screened and mentored hundreds of startups and advised founders on preparing for fundraising and engaging with investors. Today, he'll be sharing practical, real-world insights on building investor-ready startups and navigating early-stage fundraising. So please welcome Joseph De Leon. Ayan.
Good afternoon, Earl.
Good afternoon, sir. So to start with, maybe you can share more, sir, about yourself, what you do. So, sir.
Sure. So, as mentioned, my name is Joseph De Leon. I say this all the time, but it doesn't mean it's not true. I wear many hats, but they're all pointed in the same direction. I found that my mission is to help founders and businesses become as valuable as possible in alignment with their personal values. And so I do that at multiple levels. At the enterprise level, I'm a partner in an M&A advisory called Gravitas Prime. So you might not have heard of us because we're very discreet, but we help sell some of the brands you might know. Yellow Cab, Red Ribbon, Goldilocks. And we're also the Philippine collaboration partner for Anderson Global. If you don't know any of those names, you might know the business from which we were derived from. We're a stepchild of a global firm called Hambrick and Quist. They're the investment bank that started and was the first corporate money for some brands you might know. Apple, Amazon, Genentech before their IPO. I came home from the Philippines about 10 years ago, where I was head of strategy for a global ad agency, and I helped launch Oreos for the single women's market in China and other things like that from a brand space. And when I ended up in M&A, I realized that 90% of my skill set was a good fit, but I really didn't understand my clients who could go buy an entire company because I'm crazier than I'm rich or Asian. So I don't have billions of pesos to buy an entire company, but I could afford to lose $5,000 to $10,000 on a startup. And so I was looking around the space, and fortunately I met some like-minded people, and we helped found Manila Angel Investors Network. I was member number 6 in the first deal I syndicated. We tripled the membership, and now we're the largest, most active angel investor network in the country. From that, I had the opportunity to mentor and look at startups all over the world. I got to become the first scout for AWS in the Philippines. Recently, I accepted the position to become the co-director for Founder Institute Philippines. For those of you who don't know, Founder Institute is the world's largest pre-seed accelerator. It's deployed over $1.8 billion over the world. It has 200 chapters all over the world. And we in the Philippines, I was able to negotiate a deal with Google Cloud. So we're the first and only Founder Institute chapter in Southeast Asia that when you complete our program, you're guaranteed a minimum of $25,000 to $100,000 in Google Cloud credit. So, I also have the incredible benefit of working with Paul Pajo as a venture consultant for Benilde HIFI.
All right. Thank you, sir. So before we dive in, siguro let's start with the warm-up question. Since we're talking about venture capital, let's start with the common term first. Why do you think fundraising is still one of the most misunderstood parts of building a startup?
I think it's the most misunderstood because people think that fundraising is the goal. Because you see on LinkedIn celebrating that startups are securing millions of dollars in capital from foreign investors or local angels, etc. Right? But what you forget is that raising money isn't the goal. Raising money is a tool to fulfill the goal, which is making money. right? But even making money isn't the goal. The whole point of making money is that that's a signal that you're building value. And that's what we're all trying to really do. But it's easy to get distracted by big, sexy numbers because they're big, sexy numbers, right? And I'm very guilty of using big, sexy numbers to get people's attention, because it does get people's attention. Because sometimes building value, which is what really matters, doesn't sound so sexy. But that can be the mistake. And so people think, once I've gotten the money and I've raised, I've won. No, you haven't, right? Because raising money actually comes, it's not a reward, right? When you win the money from an investor, what that actually is, it's a privilege and a responsibility, because now you're beholden to other people to keep your promises or exceed them and generate more value. So please don't be distracted by the big sexy numbers, right? Focus on the big sexy difference that you can make, right? On the value that you'll end up building and the difference you'll actually be making in people's lives at the end of the day. So if there's one thing I hope that you take away from today, it's that, right? Raising money is not victory. It's a milestone. All right?
So talking about a milestone of a startup, from your experience working with early stage startups, why do many founders struggle even before they reach fundraising?
It's so hard not to curse. Sorry. It's because they don't know what they're doing. A lot of people get into the startup world with the fantastic notion of becoming an overnight success. What they don't realize is that you want the prize, but you're not willing to pay the price, right? So I think people don't realize how much work it takes, right? I'm not saying that it's always hard. There are good times in the journey as well, but a lot of times founders come in thinking, oh, this is gonna be easy money, right? And you know what? A lot of successful businesses come in because they thought it was easy, but they realized it's hard, but they just kept on going through it. And as founders, that's your new mission, right? One of my favorite TV shows and books is Altered Carbon. There's a torture scene, and basically the protagonist, his basic motivation is just get to the next screen. And as a founder, that's your life, right? Before you thrive, you just have to survive. And many founders don't appreciate that that's what it takes. The other mistake that founders make is they have success in a prior ecosystem, right? As a corporate person, as an entrepreneur in their own family business. But when they try something new, they don't realize how much their ecosystem supported their success, right? And they think that, it is all up to them. And in a sense, that's true. But at the end of the day, if you really want to grow in the business, you can't do it alone. Every one of us are better able to do something based on what we're naturally good at, right? And for you to succeed in business or in life, while you can lead the way and you can be a solo founder, it's almost impossible to scale or succeed on your own. So it's super important for you as a founder to know what your strengths are, right? I think the second biggest issue, besides not knowing yourself and appreciating that in this space, right, to build the business, I have a role that I'm especially suited to fulfill, right? And I want to be clear, right? It's not about having a distinct personality. So when you think of Apple, right? There's Steve Jobs, Tim Cook, Wozniak, Steve Ives. They're very different personalities. But any one of them, right, have been and could have been spectacular CEOs, right? But they have different personality types, but they had to lean into their personality types to lead the way but they need the other personality types to help complete the cycle of success to build it, right? So I think it's super important that you as a founder know yourself, right? The second issue is that when you're working on building a startup, a lot of people get obsessed with solving the problem and getting to a minimum viable product, which is a critical first step. But again, it's only a stepping stone to what you're really trying to build, which is a minimum viable company, which is an organization that can scale without you, right? And continue to help people by solving the problem that you need to solve better than everyone else. And then the third is, I think, people think that hope is a strategy. And unfortunately, it is not. I'm not saying you can't get lucky and that God is not good. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that if you don't intentionally take a step back to look at the landscape and have a sense of where you want to go and how to get there, and realistically take stock of what your resources are, then your odds of success end up boiling down to luck. And again, sometimes you have to step back and get lucky, but for the most part, 90% of startups fail. And the reason for that, they say, is because they run out of money. But running out of money is a symptom, not a cause, right? The primary cause is they didn't figure out how to communicate their value to the right people in time.
Thank you, sir. So, in short...
Sorry, yung mga answers ko earlier.
Yeah. So, in short, being a startup, especially here in the Philippines, it's not an overnight millionaire. Right?
That being said, it can happen.
It can happen.
So, if you have a strategic advantage, exploit it. Don't be ashamed of your privilege. Being a Nepo baby is not a bad word if you make use of it as opposed to just abusing it or hoping that will be all it takes. So, it would be unfair. Sorry. The fact of the matter is the world is unfair. The fact of the matter is that if you're listening to this podcast, the probability that you're in the top 10% of this country's population is higher than most. Now, you can choose to pretend that it doesn't make a difference and, signal false modesty. Or you can accept that, hey, you know what? I got lucky, right? There are many, many founders or people with great ideas who don't have the chance to screw up, right? For many people in this room and many people listening, you have families that can support you and can afford to let you screw up for 1 or 2 years. And in the long term, it will not impact your life, right? And there's millions of people who do not have that chance, right? So when you think about it, for these millions that don't have the chance, you're actually screwing them out of the opportunity of building something that will help elevate them so that they can, or their children, can take that chance later on, right? And I'm not saying that if you think that the safe route, going corporate or going the family business for you, please take that route, right? But if you have a sense that, you know what, I've got something that I want to build that can transform my life, my family's life, help create jobs or create value for hundreds or thousands of people, it would be a damn shame if you, who can afford to make the mistake, don't. Because a lot of people can't afford to make that mistake. And building startups and being a founder, your job number one is to fail. It's inevitable. If you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough, right? The trick is to fail fast, learn faster, and never have a fatal failure. That's the trick, right? F up fast, learn faster.
Ending nito, lahat tayo nag-fail. Sinadya.
Correct. Absolutely. Please go fail.
Alright, so roll call. Who are founders here? Raise your hands. Oh, we have a lot of founders here. So moving forward and connecting to that answer. So, what are the common mistakes founders make while building, not just pitching their startups?
Okay, so in building your startup, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. So, I think one of the early mistakes people have or that people make is that they fall in love with the solution instead about being clear of the problem, right? So, when you want to solve, so a lot of founders are founders because they are smarter than the average Joe. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But the problem with that is that sometimes you fall in love with your own idea early on, and then you just get obsessed with that. Now, when you have a great idea, if it's not solving the problem it was designed to do, that doesn't mean it's the end of the journey. There's a lot of great businesses that have been built because they are solutions to the wrong problem, right? In a classic example, right? Post-its and bubble wrap were both actually originally designed to be wallpaper. They suck at being wallpaper. But they're a great solution for Post-its. It's found its new home because one of the guys at 3M was in a church choir and he needed a little way to tab on his sheet music to know what to play. And then that's why Post-its were born, right? Bubble wrap, it turns out, found its life because they tried it as 1960s modern wallpaper and it sucked at that. But they had to move offices and suddenly they had to move all their sensitive equipment. And what was perfect with that? Bubble wrap. So if you've built something and it's screwed up for whatever you designed it for, take a step back. All right, given what it is, what could this possibly solve better than anything else for somebody? Right? So find a problem worth solving. Taking that one more level, if you're trying to solve a problem, try to make it a hair on fire problem. Right? Not just a problem that's, an occasional irritation. Or if it's an occasional irritation, make that feel like a life or death situation. People have had dandruff for millennia. When did dandruff become a problem, particularly if you're a teenager? I don't know. When Selsun Blue came out, they made it a hair on fire problem, right? People have had pimples forever. When did it become a problem? When Clearasil figured out that it had to become a problem, right? So, make your when you see a small problem, make it as irritating as dandruff or a pimple, right? So, if you're able to get that right and work on solving a problem that's worthwhile, then you're halfway there.
So building before a fundraising, parang as founders and as we go to deepening the ano ba yun na kailangan namin i-solve or na problem, parang what should founders focus on first before even thinking about raising a capital?
I think the thing founders have to focus on first before raising capital is figure out whether you're really building a business or doing a hobby. So, I think there's a good cue, Earl. I shared with you a LinkedIn post earlier that brought together the latest research from Founder Institute that looked at startups from all over the world in 2025, right? And what it actually shows is the level of traction you need to have before you ask for external capital, right? So, again, a lot of times people think I need to get money to build my business, but they're putting the cart before the horse. And this doesn't only happen for startups. I've advised many great companies, brick and mortars, and the mistake they make is that they see early success and they think that they've hit a gold mine. But the fact of the matter is, when you're in the beginning of an adoption curve, it's very easy to grow 100% when you're starting from zero. But the math doesn't scale all the time. The other challenge is this, that as you're building your business, the small things, the shortfalls, sometimes you can cover when you're one founder, two founders, three founders, right? Sometimes you're going to miss payroll. Oh, I can advance that. But if you scale, and from 3 outlets you have 10, 20 outlets, suddenly that 10,000 peso problem becomes a 100,000 peso, million peso cash flow problem that you can't cover. And if you don't have cash in your business, right, it's like running out of air. You can only hold your breath for so long before you're dead, right? So one of the things I try to help my startups do is prepare and have a gas tank ready to go so that when they scale, that money is available for them, right? And that's what I'm trying to help with the scale-ups that I'm working with. So thanks, Earl. So basically, right, depending on what stage you're at, there's an expected level of traction depending on the kind of business that you're in. And this is a global trend, right? Not just US. So if you're a marketplace, if you think you're going to go out there and get money from institutional investors and you have $0, right? You're probably not going to get it, right? If you're trying to do something that's B2C, but you don't have demonstrable consumer demand, that is a wait list of people that want your product. Even better, a wait list of people who've put down a deposit for your product, right? You're not there. If you don't have 1,000 plus daily active users, you're probably not there. If you're trying to execute a SaaS, right? Have you actually executed a paid proof of concept? Or is it just an idea in your head, right? Or if you're doing deep tech and you're an arts major without any technical background. Again, if you're a liberal arts major that's done something technical like Steve Jobs, great. You don't have to have the degree, right? You just have to have the proof that you know what the hell you're doing, right? So, and then the farther up you go, the more work it takes. Again, there are exceptions. So one of the startups I'm on the board of, they were able to raise $1 million before they started for a credit bureau marketplace. But that's because the founder already had done the same work in another startup and already had the relationships and had signed up contracts. So before he launched, he already had that base of potential users lined up. So without a single dollar being deployed, he already had the contracts in place. So no transaction revenue, but the relationships were there. So from day one, he was already making money. Yeah.
All right, so I'll just go back to the original. All right, thank you. So, moving forward with that answer, I actually have a follow-up question. Is there such thing as fundraising too early, or what signals tell the founder that they're not yet ready?
So here's what I want you guys to think about when you go get money from a VC or an angel investor. You are out to build a great business. But if you're going to ask for VC money, then you are committing to be a great investment. So what's the difference? For you to be a great business, right, and help your employees, right, you just have to succeed for yourself. Be profitable, scale up, keep growing, be happy. If you want to be a great investment, you have to be 10 to 20 times better because your success will make up for my stupidity. As investors, particularly in the venture capital game, we are playing the law of large numbers. We are hoping that out of every 10, 20, 30 bets, one of them will make up all the difference because, again, statistically, 90% of the bets will fail. So that's what you're signing up for, right? The other thing you have to look at is this. When you're taking equity from other people, you are executing a trade and you are giving up ownership and control in exchange for capital and connections and doors that open up for you. So you have to make sure that that trade-off wins for you. And even when you're dealing with angel investors, please remember, Lucifer was an angel too. We're not all good guys out there, or even if we are good guys, we have our own vested interests, and they're not always aligned with yours. So it's super important when you get into this, come in with open eyes and know what you're getting into. There is no such thing as a free lunch, right? So, how do you know if it's too early? If the money that's coming in is pushing you to grow faster than you're ready for. Because you have to remember, they want to push you to grow that fast because they have to deploy their capital and they need to see your success, or actually they need your success to be something they can show off to get more money for themselves, right? But that might not be what's best for you. It's like dating someone who's trying to make you look prettier or more handsome or fit you in an image that they have for themselves or their family or their peer group, but it's not who you are, right? You're dating the wrong person. Break up with him, come back to me. Yung mga ganon. That's what you need to do. Hashtag natahugot. Right?
So since you already mentioned that the investor readiness of the founders or the startups in the Philippines, let's move forward with realistically in the Philippines, what kind of traction do investors expect from early stage startups today?
So in the Philippines, we have a unique dynamic, right? Particularly if you're doing B2B. And there's another unique dynamic for B2C. Let me do the B2B one first, right? So, I'm sure you've seen this, but you might not appreciate the math behind it, right? In the Philippines, similar to other markets in Southeast Asia, there's a lot of control held by conglomerates. And in the Philippines in particular, our conglomerates tend to be very diversified, as opposed to in other markets where they tend to be vertically integrated or just monopolistic, right? We are styled as family conglomerates to be multi-industry, multi-market. And what that translates to is that the top 50 families control 20% of the economy. So, for you to succeed in this market, you don't need 1,000 customers to get off the ground if your lead customer is SM, right? Now, that's a B2B play. So right now, I'm an advisor for a great startup called Doon. They just pitched at Maine yesterday. They're on track to secure $100,000 from Google Cloud because they're an AI space startup. They're going to be funded by Maine. And the reason that they're moving quite quickly is because they're a internal waste finder solution. They're like the waste for indoors. And the first set of contracts they're getting is with Shoemart. So if you're gonna get off on the right foot, that's a pretty good right foot to get off on. Even more impressive, he was able to pull this off without being a C or married to a C or anything like that, right? He did it with hard work, putting together a great package, and grinding to make the right connections and partnering with the right people to get in the door and make it happen, right? So he's just recently launched. He's already locking in his contracts. They're not even fully signed yet, but already he's quite investable, right? Because he's got the right kind of traction getting off the ground. From a social media standpoint, if you're doing B2C, right? The Philippines is a wonderful test market for the rest of the world. We are actually cultural bellwethers. We're responsible for things like the adaptation of Menudo the band, Macarena the song, and Cambridge Analytica, right? Because we're high adopters of social media, cultural differences, and even crypto. We're a great test market for the world, right? So if you're able to build the product or get attention online and capture the attention of some key influencers, then from an adoption standpoint, that's an incredible fast track to growth, right? One of the things I try to share in my play shops is that when you're building a business, right, what you actually have to structure is you have to have an intention of where you want to go, articulate some concrete next best actions to move there. But one of the metrics of success you need to be chasing for is attention. Because the fact of the matter is, right, like it or not, when you're going to compete in the marketplace, it's not always the best product that always wins. It's the best known or the one that gets the most attention. That's why Trump is president. I don't think anyone thinks he's the best person for the job, but he's got it now, right? So, and I apologize that's the example I had to use, but it's the most concrete and the most clear, painful example of you don't have to be the best person for the job to win the job. You just have to be the best known.
All right, thank you, sir. So we're actually moving
Girl, just
forward.
call me Joseph. You're not my driver naman.
Sorry. So moving forward, our next session is a Q&A. So we're giving opportunities for founders who want to take seat here and have a conversation with Sir Joseph. So if you guys have questions about your startups,
Interrogate me, baby. We had
Yes.
some earlier. Can people remind me? Call out jackass. You didn't answer this.
so who wants to take a seat and have a conversation? All right. Say your name first.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon. My name's Kyle.
Hey, Kyle. Just call me Joseph.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, Joseph. As with everybody else here, mostly I'm a young entrepreneur. I just started the journey.
Congratulations on being young and an entrepreneur.
Yes.
I'm very, very jealous.
Yeah. So my question would be, how would you deal with tackling an idea that's already in the market, like as an entrepreneur?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Ideas are cheap. Ideas are practically worthless. What matters is execution and traction.
Traction. What would be the the good template for someone who's starting out to execute their idea?
So,
Like, what would
Yeah,
would
let
that
me-
series of steps look like?
sure, let me tell you what the series of steps is. It's very simple.
Mm.
Take the fucking step. Sorry. Take the step. Right? The job of the first draft is not to be good or perfect. The job of the first draft is to be done. Go do the next best action that moves you forward. And then you know what you do next?
Mm.
Take the next blessed step forward. And then the one after that.
Mm.
Right?
Mm.
Because again, the challenge that founders have is, and this is sorry, not just for founders, right? So Jeff Bezos did this analysis in his origin. Again, I'm biased because I'm the first Philippine AWS scout. So I had to worship at the altar of Bezos for a while, right?
Mm.
But he found this, right? That for many people that are climbing the corporate ladder, right? If you're corporate, you know this, right? Part of your job isn't just to do a good job. Part of your job is to look like you're doing a good job. And that's like 90% of the job sometimes, right? And so what ends up happening is you end up justifying every decision, and so you have to go through paralysis analysis so that you can justify everything and that you're covered.
Mm.
Right? Every step of the way. Unfortunately, and for corporate, that's why things move so slowly.
Mm.
Because, like I said, even things where they can afford to fail as a corporation or as organization, at a personal level for your career, it's too damn scary. And so every decision is treated like a potentially life-threatening decision. Right? So think of it this way. Imagine if this is the difference of at a very juvenile level, brushing your teeth in the morning or going for a full-on extraction to pull out your molars. So imagine if you had to go through the whole decision-making criteria every morning. Should I go to the dentist and have my wisdom teeth pulled out? Or should I just brush my freaking teeth in the morning? And that's how you lived your life. Right? So a lot of times as founders, you don't know what you're doing, so it's bloody scary. And so you treat every decision as if it's life or death when it's just life or embarrassment.
For sure.
Right?
I agree.
And at the end of the day, and again, maybe it's a blessing to be pangit because then you get used to being embarrassed. Right? And then over time, you'll get your glow up also. Right? So that's what I think is the first step. The other one would be, if you don't know what to do, connect with people that do. So that you will not just be inspired, but you'll be infected. So join Benilde HIFI, connect with other inspiring people so that your ambition will level up. Right? The other thing that you want to look for is, so one of the groups I got to mentor for and judge was Sandbox, which is basically a startup program where they took people and they trained them in a few months to come up with great startups, and the quality they came out with is incredibly good. And the organizer, Richard Dehan, is a super angel from Los Angeles. The key principle he applied was he just makes sure that everybody that goes through the program knows what the standard is, so that you know whether your good is good enough, because you're trying to compete at a global level, right? So that you're not deluded to thinking that you're the best when you know, okay, that's what the best looks like, right?
Got it.
So take a step, meet the right people, be inspired, right? Learn what the right standards are, try to see what the best practices are, then try something. Every quarter, I'll try and do it more frequently. I run a strategy play shop to help founders and businesses organize their thinking. So they'll have a 90-day game plan right, to move forward in terms of what they want to do. As at Founder Institute, go to fi.co/Philippines, and we run a program that will take founders from a crazy idea to becoming an investable startup. The full price is $400. If you apply now, it's under $300. And again, because we were able to have a good relationship and negotiate with Google Cloud, if you make it, right, you'll get $25,000 to $100,000 in Google Cloud credit, which is 55x of your cash for 3 months of painful work. And I promise you, I will make it painful.
All right, thank you so much for those
Thank you very
wonderful
much,
insights,
Carl.
sir. Just a quick picture, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah, for documentation, it's important, everyone.
Thanks. Do I need
Alright.
to glow up?
Thank you very much. Anyone wants to have next? ACA?
Sure.
Thank you.
Hey, good to see you again.
Hi, how are you, Joseph? Definitely made an impression when I first met you. And so,
Wait, you have to introduce yourself because not everyone's had the privilege.
yeah. But I was just going to say, definitely love the fact that I get to talk to you here. Hey, everybody, I'm Sherry Ann, founder and CEO of Aim High. We're actually AI for construction. We definitely want to change the way we do business here in construction. Basically, we are providing clarity for contractors when it comes to cost, schedule, and risk. We are officially fundraising after 2.5 years of bootstrapping and really understanding how tough it is to spend your own money on every little thing, right? Just for the record, we're trying to raise $400,000 as of right now. Earlier, you showed a
Traction map?
traction map, and kind of have a question on that one. How much equity should we give up in every level of those round?
Great question. Let me give you the shortcut, no BS answer. Around 20%.
For every round.
Every bloody round. Let me tell you why. Because at the end of the day, right, you're giving up money in a round so someone else can come in so that they can make more money in the next round. So, but it's a marathon, right? And towards the end of the race, right, the people that are putting in more money want to make sure that you, the founder, the person that's actually going to make a living off of this, and for whom it's a life and death scenario and not a portfolio option, has a significant enough share to make a difference, or else you'll just be an employee, right? In the Philippines, it's very dangerous to ask for money from great institutions because the institutional money was built on a legacy of entrepreneurship and success. The people that have money made money on their own, right? Or in partnership with their family members, and that's how they built their family conglomerates. They're used to making money by owning money. And unfortunately, our capital markets aren't properly structured for them to value dilution. If you IPO in NASDAQ, Singapore, or Hong Kong, it's okay to own a small percentage because the market rewards you, right? And so your entire net worth grows. The Philippine Stock Exchange at the moment hasn't matured yet to that level because they still have a lot to do in terms of democratizing micro investments so that more people end up contributing to the PSE, right? Because right now, any one billionaire can actually jockey the market. It's too small. It's small enough that they can maneuver it, right? So when a big conglomerate comes in and says, I want to put money in you, the way they see it is, wala kang pera. It's my money that's at risk. So I need equity and control because that's their traditional mindset of how things grow. So part of the painful conversations I'm having with my much richer friends is the idea that if they gave up 5% of their wealth, right, and decided to build something on their own, they could probably double their wealth, almost surely, right? But what I asked them to think about is, how much of their time and attention and focus would it take to actually achieve that, right? Versus if they took 5% of their wealth and made a bet on 10 stupid and hopefully not so stupid kids and see where it goes. If they lost all that money, their lives would not fundamentally change. But if one of those kids is able to double that money or even 10x or 100x that money for them, right? They'll be able to achieve much more exponential wealth, right? So, to answer your question quickly, again, the magic formula is 20%. But the thing that you have to be asking for, let me complete the equation. You're giving up X dollars, right, for Y% equity or a Z% discount on your safe note, which again, by the way, was invented by founders too, right? As an investor, I want to understand where that money is going, and it better not be your new car or house and lot in Forbes, right? Or money to date your girlfriend, right? It has to, or boyfriend, right? It's got to go in terms of X% will go to marketing and sales, Y% will go to operations and management salaries, Z% will go to R&D and tech development, so that in 18 to 24 months, not 5 years, 20 years, right? Or even 1 year down the line, but basically within 2 years and or your next fundraise, you will achieve X dollars in revenue and profit from where you are today, Y growth in terms of number of customers or markets you're in, and Z capacity or capability in terms of your R&D and research. How can your thing sing and dance better now than it could before the money came in?
Well, that kind of leads me to my second and third question.
Sure, ask
The
the second
second
one
one is, how do we as founders protect control? You mentioned earlier it's about control and economics, right? So with 20%, whenever we give up the 20%, what are some of the things that we need to do that will be part of the agreement to somehow protect our control?
Take me on as an advisor. That's one. No, I'm just kidding. You don't need me. You can figure it out on your own, right? But that 20% is one of the initial elements, right? I think the second critical element to fundraising is that you have to remember that capital and equity is the single most expensive form of cash, of equity, of capital, right? So your source of funds. And you want to make sure that your source of funds matches your use of funds, right? As founders who are struggling early on, it's very tempting to just take cash so you don't have to worry about cash, right? But sometimes you end up taking cash in terms of equity that should be a loan. And people get scared of things like, oh my God, I'm going to be paying not just 6%, 12% like a traditional bank loan, but I'll end up paying 20, 15, 30% for a loan? That's so expensive, right? And it is. But you know what's more expensive, right? Instead of paying a 30% loan in 2 years to achieve 100% growth, right? You take on someone that owns 5% of your company 20 years from now, and that guy doesn't have to do jack shit to be rich because you're doing all the work. That's my goal in life, to be that guy. So thanks if you're stupid enough to take my money, right? And you're only using it for project financing. Versus if you take that money and it's invested in things that aren't that can't be funded through project financing, right? Like go to market in another space, right? Or in R&D, right? Or in attracting top talent, or in getting a exchange of value in terms of access to customers or clients that you couldn't get before, right? But if you're taking the money to invest in deployment with a matching contract or to get inventory, right? Instead of looking at purchase order financing, right? Bridge loans, and for many of you out there, swallowing your goddamn pride and asking your mother, father, brother, and sister for money. Here's the other thing you have to remember, right? As an angel investor, one of the things I look at is your profile, and I go, if your mother who loves you doesn't want to give you money, why the hell should I? Right? So, that's the key protection.
But when is it okay to give board seats?
I think giving up board seats is a matter of what you get out of it. As a founder, remember when I said you can't do it alone?
Mm-hmm.
When you get someone on the board who has the right experience, the right reputation, and the right and the right connections, they might be able to help you accelerate your business. And there's a simple reason why. You as a founder, if you're fantastic, you probably have 3 startups that you'll build, grow, right? Some will fuck up, some will not scale, some will succeed, right? And you'll build maybe 3, right? If you're a super maniac, you'll do even more. Fair enough. But in general, you'll either do 1 to 3, right? I look at 3 startups before lunch, right? So from a sheer perspective of seeing what works, what doesn't work, what's out there, I, no offense, have exponentially more experience than you, right? And so when I see what's going on, I can tell you, hey, you know what? I saw this already, and this is what happened. It might not be necessarily what's gonna happen to you, but it's an insight point that makes a difference, right? The other one is, so that's one, right? Giving you direct insight and experience, so it's like you have a crystal ball. My balding head is a crystal ball into your business because I might have seen it happen, right? Somewhere between Switzerland and Singapore, Kazakhstan and Kuala Lumpur, because I've mentored startups from there. I've been there, right? I've seen it. I've learned firsthand what's going on, right? That's one. The second is insider connections, right? So when you're building a business, I have a framework that I use in terms of credibility. I call it the 4 N's, right? So the first N is narrative. You have to have a clear story. Before me, life was crap. After me, life is better. Right? Simple. It's a Lifebuoy Safeguard Soap TVC. Right? Germs, no germs. That's the narrative. However you want to frame that, right? Now here's the next critical piece, right? You can have a great story, right? But at the end of the day, until the singularity, decisions are made by human beings. And we're hardwired to make decisions based on trust. And so, the next most important thing is a name. I don't know who you are. But if I know the person on your board, then you might be someone I can trust. You didn't know me at the beginning of this conversation, but what did I do? I super intentionally humble brag like crazy, right? So that I'd have some level of credibility with you, right? Because I'm not 6'3" in finance or a bro, right? I had to make it up with my charm as opposed to my good looks and experience, right? So that's what I had to do. Like, you should trust me because of the brands who've trusted me. You should trust me because I can actually unlock hundreds of millions of dollars. That's the next piece, right? So let me just go back to names, right? So that's why if you look at the global landscape, right, 90% of startups that get funded in the early days and even today, they're from people that finished at Stanford, right? Why? Because even though the people don't know anything else about the founder, right? They know, I went to Stanford, he went to Stanford, Stanford's a tough school. So at the very least, I know this kid is smart enough or rich enough and either will make a difference, is an asymmetrical advantage for a startup, right? For them to succeed, right? So fair enough. Then the next piece is, right, the numbers. Because at the end of the day, with the name, you've won over their heart, right? So that's why if you're, for example, dating and then it's recommended by a trusted friend, you're better, right? But then, if you're a smart girl, you should also check whether his job will pay enough for the dates or kung ikaw yung magbabayad, right? The numbers have to work also, right? So, again, what do? You go out there and say, you know what? We've built this business. In the past, you could get away with saying, and here is $1 billion opportunity, right? Here is a Tam Samsung. My perspective is, F your Tam Samsung. I don't care about that. I only care about, right, your GTM, your go-to-market. How much money can you actually get to on your own and with the money I'm giving you? Nothing else matters. You can go suck eggs with your Tam Samsung. Bring that to Silicon Valley, not here. Because I'm not as rich as the guys in Silicon Valley. Right? But if you're in Silicon Valley, go sing that Tam Samsung song. Right? And if you're good looking enough, charismatic enough, right, can deepen your voice, right? Have a great demo, throw in some buzzwords for an extra 30%. Go with God. I mean, I'm not gonna begrudge you taking money from rich white guys in Silicon Valley and Pandora, Patagonia jackets. Take their money, right? So then the last piece is the narrator, right? You as a person that's telling the story, do I actually know you? Do I actually trust you? Do I actually like you? Right? So we had a startup that was brought us by one of our angels, because our angel was part of the leadership team. We liked him a lot. The rest of the management team, brilliant people, experts in their field. The CEO, arrogant, know-it-all, who, when we were asking questions, conveyed by his very presence that he was deigning us with his wisdom and insight. And so we, as the guys that were trying to figure out whether we're going to write a $2 million check or not, went, you know what? I don't care if this guy is our ticket to 200 million. I do not want to spend another second of my precious life with this despicable human being. He wasn't worth it. If it was worth 2 billion, he might be worth it. But there's an equation, right? Again, right? That's why Elon Musk is inevitably quite successful, right? Because he's got his own name, right? And that attitude is part of his persona. And you know what? If he came by and said, hey man, give me $1, I'll turn it to $1 billion. I don't need to personally like the guy. Hindi ako galit sa pera eh. So, fight. Right? But that's a trade-off. So, in summary again, right? First is narrative. Have a very clear story about why you are valuable. Right? And that's not the same as a story as, oh, suffer the little children. Poor planet, it's bleeding. Oh, look at the starving children. I mean, I care about the starving children, but that's why I give to a church, right? I'm not giving my investment money to you, right? If you're gonna make money. And by the way, it helps save the children. That's fantastic. But you have to sell me on the difference you make in terms of value, and not just, my values, right? Later on, when you've conquered the world and you can flip the switch to your ecologically sustainable solution, perfect, right? Fantastic. That's a good go-to-market strategy, right? So, narrative, right? Next is names. I don't know you, but, I'm friends with Paul Pajo. I've completed the Benilde HIFI program. You have my attention, right? I like Paul. I trust his good judgment. I trust the program, right? So, and whether it's being a startup or doing, as I advise people to do, go to market from around the world, you have to find as many common points of common ground to build a step up, right? So that's what the names are for. And then the numbers, right? Give them a clear number that they can go back to their finance nerds and say, right? We should do this, right? So why should we use this? Because it's the system that SM is going to be using. Okay, great. First check, right? That's with the CEO, right? The next check is with the CFO. Why should we do this? Because for our 1,000 peso or $1,000 investment, we will save $10,000, $100,000 year on year. Check, right? Because everybody has a boss, right? Then the last, be a great narrator. Be someone that people will be comfortable working with. And what that means is you have to strike that great balance of having strong conviction about what you believe in, but you have to balance it with the wisdom and humility to say, you know what? But I'm happy to be wrong in the face of facts. I mean, that's the word I use for myself, because by default, I'm an arrogant little shit, so I have to remind myself that I'm not the smartest person in the room. And if I am the smartest person in the room, I am in the wrong damn room. So I'm glad to be here today because there's lots of smarter people in the room today, right?
Joseph, one last question. You mentioned the angels and the Lucifers. We're about to go in and look for VCs and funding. What are some of the things I need to watch out for? That these are sharks who only give a damn about themselves and nothing about our startup. So maybe 1 to 2 things that might be red flags that I need to watch out
Sure,
for.
let me just give you one thing. They are out there for themselves. Period. Don't be naive or stupid. Angel investors, VCs, are there to get rich off your back. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of great VCs out there, but even within great VCs, right, there are bad operators. There are great companies out there, and you can make first contact with them and you get your initial traction with them. They're using your product, they're helping you grow your name. And then because it's a large conglomerate, somebody on the board visits, drops by, sees what you're doing, interrogates the partners you're working with, interrogates you, and then magically 6 months later, they have a rival product that they developed in-house that happens to have some of the insights, happens to leverage some of the, same markets that you're capturing, right? The people you originally worked with, they had nothing to do with it. But by the nature of the beast, right? You got screwed. Right? Right? You come to Manila Angel Investors Network, we're committed to help build a world-class ecosystem, but we piss off a lot of people because we don't give money to startups we don't believe in. We don't give money to startups that we can't help, and that's frustrating, right? And obviously some of the angels there, have their own businesses, and when they learn something, they're not gonna turn off part of their brain based on what you shared. They're gonna use it for themselves because they're shrewd business people, right? They're not necessarily bad people. Some of them are. I'm not pretending there are no bad people in the world, right? But at the same time, it's also tough to go out there and assume everyone is out to get you, because sometimes people just have well-meaning advice. So I wish I had better advice for you. But I think at the end of the day, you as founders or just grown-ass adults have to be responsible for the choices you make. And you have to earn the wisdom to discern, right? Is this a good person or not? And that value of the person, whether he's a good person or not, is something that doesn't differ in terms of whether you're gonna ask them for investment, help, or friendship, right? So if you know how to discern whether someone's a great person or not a great person, please tell me, because I wanna get this right. Because I've put in money in people I thought were great founders, and because of the circumstances, they made choices that dug themselves deeper and deeper in a hole, and then they were too shy or too scared to ask for help. They lost faith in themselves or faith in a greater power, and they just went down their own path and started just dragging themselves and other good people down with them, right? So
Well, I guess it's a two-way street. The investors also have to, look at us if we're worthy of their
Yep.
money, right?
And
Thank you so much. Appreciate
Yeah.
the insights and for all the things you shared.
thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much. So pitch at me.ph when you're paying customers.
All right. Thank you so much, Miss A. So, siguro I have also a question to end the Q&A part.
Dami pang tanong.
Meron pa?
Dami pa.
Someone who wants?
Okay, great. None? Too scared? Oh.
My
Whisper
turn.
it in my ear.
All right.
Habang libre. Can I have more water, please?
Thank you.
Hi, Joseph. Good
Hello.
afternoon. Yep. My name is Katya, and I'm a founder.
Congratulations, Katya.
Thank you. I did have a question on getting corporates as clients, because you said, they have a lot of money, but it moves so slow, and every decision they make is life or death for that person. So how would you, as a founder, get them as one of your first clients, even?
Great question. So, did you watch a TV show called Lucifer?
Yeah.
It's a great show. Now, what was Lucifer's superpower? Right? Besides song and dance, his superpower was that he could look into your eyes and evoke from you what you really wanted. Right? So when you're negotiating with corporates or with anyone, that's what I believe is your critical first step. Be clear about what they want. Right? The critical step that also matters though is be clear about what you want. Right? What exactly does success look like for you? What is your highest goal with that opportunity? What's the baseline you're happy to walk away with? Right? So for example, I was making a pitch with a potential client, right? And I had a very clear negotiation strategy in terms of what I wanted to get across and what I wanted to walk away with, right? And my walk-away point was, I just want permission to give you an NDA. I don't even need you to sign the NDA. I just need your permission so that I will know who the hell to put in the NDA, so that I will give you 2 weeks to decide whether you want to work with me or not. Why is that important to me? Because A, I learn how their decision-making process works. And B, I get a small yes, which then can open up a bigger yes. Right?
Yep.
And then third, I give myself a deadline for success or failure. I know that if they don't get back to me in 2 weeks,
On to the next.
on to the next. Or come back with something different. But you know what's different when I come back? They already know who I am. They already have an NDA waiting. So the decision friction has gone down exponentially.
So
Right.
parang like, instead of trying to eat the whole elephant, step bit by bit.
Right? Remember my earlier advice? Just take the next step. And in that scenario, the next best action was have an NDA for them to look at. The step after that is getting to sign it. But you get how those are two different steps. Right? Those are two different steps. Right? Get the name for who goes on the NDA. Give them the NDA. Wait 2 weeks. Follow up. Maybe not they sign the NDA. Right?
Yeah.
I actually don't want them to sign that NDA. Right? Because I have another offer that I want to offer to someone else. Right? Which will require a different NDA, but I already know how they're going to fill it up. Right? Tailored to what they need right now as opposed to the solution they need 3 years from now. So I can make them rich now and make myself happier along the way.
Nice. Great.
Right?
Yeah.
So, sorry, the last piece is, so know what they want, know what you want. And what I was trying to illustrate is, know how, try to figure out, by getting them what they want, will it get you what you want? So in that scenario, right, I want to eventually sell them as a company because I do M&A, right? But it turns out they're not ready to sell right now. Okay, great. Fortunately, I have another company that I started called Bullet Day, which is precisely for this opportunity set to help navigate businesses to get from successful individual or entrepreneurial success to getting prepared for institutional capital by leveraging their 8 drivers of corporate value, right? But I came in with my M&A organization. So I, as a good fiduciary, have to make that offer, right? And give them a chance to accept that offer.
Nice.
But after 2 weeks, all right, thanks for letting us know you're not ready for that. I have something that might be better suited for you. Because that's from the discovery what you need right now as your next best action to move towards that. You're not even sure if you want to sell your business right now. Great. So now, because in that discovery I found out what they want, and I know what I want to do at the end of the day, I want to help make businesses be more valuable. I want to build a platform so that I can plug into Paul and build a unicorn generating machine for the Philippines, right? And I see how doing that helps me get there. Fantastic. So for yourself, 3 straightforward steps.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're easy, but they're 3 simple things you have to keep in mind. Do I know what they want? Do I know what I want? And what's the one thing I can do to help them get what they want that helps me get what I want? And offer it to them and see if they say yes.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Katya. You'll be a better female founder than I ever will be.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Yes, boss. Now I'm scared.
So since we're recording this, no, so
Ay, sorry for my bad words earlier.
So kay dahil Salin Brothers were here kanina touring, so no, anyway, maybe you can, so really thank JDL for taking time to do this. Normally I can't afford his per hour, no, but so he has generously onboarded as one of our ventures consultant here in Benilde, actually, even though he's pure-blooded Atenean. So again, thank you. So anyway, I'm sure it's not obvious to everyone the mandates that you have, right? So maybe you can enumerate some of them. And then related to what we do in HIFI, I think in a perfect world, you would want some of the startups to actually move towards calibrating what they do so they will align with your funding mandate, because there's a lot of funds out there, but it's just a matter of also finding the right startups to connect with, correct?
Sure.
So maybe you can elaborate on that.
Let me tackle the question a different way, Paul. Right?
Yes.
Let me just walk through why I chose to say yes to working with Benilde, right? And then how it connects the dots. Because basically, this is what I realized a couple of years ago, right? The Philippine ecosystem is broken, right? And as I established earlier, I am an arrogant jackass who thinks I can change the world for some stupid reason. And I don't like fixing the system from the outside. I like being the system, right? So, Benilde is the first step in that mission because I'm getting to work with founders before they realize they want to be founders, right? To appreciate what they should be getting into, right? So, once you graduate from Benilde HIFI, right? And choose, I'm going to go be a founder, then I invite you to join Founder Institute Philippines at fi.co/Philippines because then we have a structured system and a global platform to bring you access to best practices, right? And the best minds from around the world so that you go from being a founder with a crazy idea to an investable company. Plus, because of the partnerships I was able to sign up, $25,000 to $100,000 in Google Cloud credit. Right? Then from there, right? And so to get into FI, what do you need, right? You need to have the guts, not necessarily the balls. You can have whatever organs are appropriate to go forward, right? The courage to be wrong and find out what you need to do to make it right to get to becoming an investable company, right? And so basically, what you're trying to get to there is you're going to be building a scalable business that will be successful not just for you, but for other people that might put in their money, and that your business will be successful to make everybody involved rich, right? Then after that, when you have a paying customer, then I invite you to go to pitch@main.ph so you can go through screening at Manila Angel Investors Network, the Philippines' largest and most active angel investor network, with access to global investors as well. And by then, you'll have an edge up because I also happen to be the head of screening for Manila Angel Investors Network. You see how I'm rigging the system for success? You know why? Because I'm lazy. I want to make sure that I get good quality startups from the beginning, from Benilde, into Founder Institute, into Maine. And then after that, right? And you've built a successful business that's getting off the ground, then if you need help scaling up, right? Then you can work with me in my private consulting practice called Bullet Day, because I was talking to my brother a couple of years ago and I said, "Tangina, the system's broken. Balang araw aayusin ko yan." Right? Balang araw became Bullet Day, and that was last year.
Okay.
So, today became someday. Someday became today. And so, Bullet Day, I went out and I got certified to be the Philippines' first and only value builder advisor. What does that mean? That means that I've actually studied the eight different drivers of corporate value, so that you can evolve from being a typical business owner to being a value builder in your business, so that your organization is ready to sell at any time. Why is that important? Because even if you don't sell your company, if you're structured so that you can sell, then by default, that means you're structured so that you can scale. That means that you're structured so that other people can contribute money and become co-investors in you and help you succeed in your growth, right? And then after that, when you get big enough, right? And to tie to your question earlier, right? At Bullet Day, I personally have the mandate, right? I have access to capital. People from around the world are saying, "I want to invest. I have money to deploy." Sure, I have money to deploy in Southeast Asia, right? But I don't know the Philippines, so I need you. I trust you to bring me these good opportunities, right? So what does that include, right? That includes impact capital from around the world that wants to deploy in things that will have environmental or SDG impact, right? That includes agri-tech businesses. So if you're anything from, except the farm and the table, but everything in between, from seeds to hog raising to soil technology, right, to distribution access channels, right, innovation market technologies, right, and you're open to being bought for $3 to $30 million, I've got a guy for that, right? If you want to scale up to other markets in Southeast Asia or around the world, I have a global network of friends who I can unlock for those potential opportunities, right? And why am I doing that? Because at the end of the day, I want to help you IPO or get acquired, or acquire something else so that you can be even bigger, right? Why does that matter? Because unfortunately, the Philippine ecosystem is too damn small, right? When I was in Malaysia, I worked, my primary client were the telcos. They had a quarter of the people, but had a similar valuation, which didn't make any sense to me, right? Things are a little bit different now, but back then I was thinking, this is wrong. This is not the way it should be. And so because it's wrong, I want to change it. So I want you to build a great company led by a Filipino founder and then get acquired to be part of something bigger, or by the grace of God and our hard work together, get the capital to acquire something else, and let's do some reverse colonization out there. Yeah. Let's buy some Silicon Valley companies, baby. That's where I want to go. Right? And at that level, I have the mandate to bring in, currently I'm helping a business that didn't exist 6 months ago. We're currently in discussions to do a greenfield energy project for $100 million. We'll have that meeting tomorrow. 4 months ago, he wasn't even incorporated.
Wow.
So, when you work with me, you can achieve in 1 quarter what other businesses take a decade to do.
So I hope that's clear to everyone listening. And so in other words, after this podcast, if you think you'll hit one of those mandates in the next 5 years, you should really talk to JDL. That's all I'm, because a lot of people don't, it's not obvious to them what you bring to the
Hindi kasi ako
table.
6'3" finance bro. Hindi. Hey.
So yan. Well, thanks man. So
Thank you very much, Paul. And thank you all very much. I hope I got to answer your question.
Does anyone have any other questions? Want to take the seat here?
Don't worry, 6'3". Don't worry, 6'3". He's 6'3".
I just don't work in
Damn
finance. Sorry.
Hashtag
Joseph,
not
good to see you
jealous.
again.
Hey, Tom.
I suppose, sorry, I come a little bit late, so hopefully I'm not asking
That's okay.
same question, but I would be interested to know if, like, what your advice would be to look when looking for a VC or an angel to enter into your company, and if you don't have capital but you're interested in becoming a VC or an investor, where would you start?
Sure. Earl, can I borrow you to open my deck? Earl, you've improved. Gumanda ka. So you have to open my PDF, right?
Yes.
So if you want to become a VC without being a VC, you're very lucky because it's 2026. So I am also, among the other crazy things I've achieved, I'm the first Filipino to complete Founder Institute's Venture Capital Lab program. So back in 2020. So what's the context? Founder Institute is the world's largest pre-seed accelerator that's deployed 1.8 billion all over the world. They've been doing it for 20 plus years. They invented the safe note, just to clarify how valuable they are, right? And they found that they have lots of startups all over the world, but they found out there's not enough institutional capital to support their growth. So they started the Venture Capital Lab to help angel investors learn what it takes to become a VC. So it was a pandemic, and my day job is selling food and beverage companies, and I realized I'm not gonna make any money this year from selling a food and beverage company. I've got lots of time. What should I do besides eat gummies? I gotta do something else, right? I got into the Venture Capital Lab program, and day before the deadline, to graduate, you had to secure 10% of your target raise. So my target was $10 million. I need to get a commit for $1 million. I said, all right, let's do this. Let's make a call. My first call, I locked in $1 million commitment for my fund. Unfortunately, life happened. My mother had a series of strokes, and as I was doing the business of being a VC, I realized that the job of a VC is to go out and get more money. And then I realized that's not how I want to be spending my time. I want to be spending other people's money, but I want to invest my time in helping founders like you figure out their stuff, right? In the different ways where I'm exceptionally good at doing, such as helping uncover the narrative that will make it clear to the audience, hey, this is why this opportunity is special, right? I found that around the world, I am exceptionally good at it, right? And then that helps unlock capital from a lot of people, because when investors talk to me, I explain the opportunity to them, and they finally get it, so they trust me, right? So it's a fortuitous chain of events, right? So, Johnny, can you skip to my slide that has the 7 M's of fundraising? So it's a chart that's basically blue and red. This is a long 25-minute talk, but let's skip to that slide, right? And in the next few months, this deck and the accompanying material will be available on my website, bulletday.com, as a resource to give to founders, right? So can we go back one? Sorry. So this is a formula that I hope you as founders get crystal clear when you're fundraising. So this is not perfect, but this came close. It's one of the startups I mentored. They won a global startup competition with Financial Times for sustainable investment. And this is the formula we came up together with in terms of framing their ask, which was, hey, what's your global vision? So we know where we're headed. To get there, I need this much money from you, for which I will give up this % of my business. And I will use that, X for sales and marketing, Y for ops and systems, Z for tech, R&D, and dev, so that, not in forever, not in 5 years, but in 18 to 24 months, because that is the organic investment horizon for institutional investors, right? How much money I'll be making, A, in revenue and margin, which should be much bigger than I'm doing now. My customer base and my geographical spread will be bigger. And C, my platform will be doing much more than it is today, right? This is my cheat sheet, right? For when you're asking for money. When you're trying to explain your business, there's a different cheat sheet that I'm sure Paul will tell you about, that, I am this business solving this problem for this audience in this specific way with this special sauce, right? Or the nuke, whichever formula you want to use. Next slide, please, Jana. Lovely, Jana. So, when you're going to do fundraising, here is my framework for fast-tracking fundraising.
Can I ask a question? Just quick. Just on that other slide.
Sure. You want to go back one?
Yes, sorry. I know it's I'm talking for a while, but...
That's all right. That's your job.
So we need X for X equity.
Y equity, yep.
Yeah, so how...
Don't confuse your variables. That's shitty math, man.
So...
it's bad algebra.
It's my dyslexia, that is. How do you come to that figure? The dollar sign,
yeah,
if you're not
very
really
simple.
Aware.
And I'll repeat it again because it's worth repeating, right? Ask for 20% or less. Oh, sorry. Only give up 20% or less equity, because if you give up too much too soon, you become worthless very fast. You become only worthwhile to the guy holding the majority.
Yeah.
There was a startup there's a accelerator program from Singapore that called me. They said they need help. I've got a great startup, but they have a crap cap table. It turns out this Indonesian startup took in a lot of capital early on, and they ended up getting diluted.
Yeah.
So it became 80% the funder, 20% the founder, and they hit their and unfortunately, they hit their targets.
Yeah.
And they're stuck. It's a $10 million business that's worthless because it can't grow anymore.
Yeah.
Because it needs external capital. It needs external help to scale out. Because it's plateaued in terms of what it can achieve on its own. But because it's 80-20 in the wrong direction, no other external investor will put in money because that's stupid.
Yeah.
Right? Because the guy giving the money and the guy taking the money didn't have a long-term view of how money works.
Right.
Right? So, my advice to them was brutally simple. Change the equation. Have the board make a resolution so that the founder will have to achieve exponentially bigger targets, and in exchange, he will get an earn out of more equity from the unassigned pool of shares. So that the original founder gets diluted. Yeah, sorry, it's a cap table fix, right? It's financial engineering, right? But it's still what had to get done.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one part of the equation. The other part of the equation is how much money you should ask for.
Yeah.
It's how much money it'll take to reach those targets in 24 months. And those targets better be worthwhile. Right? So I evaluated the startup competition, and the business was solving something for prenatal care, helping babies, right? And they had a strategic partnership with a leading hospital, right? They were asking for an amount of money for an amount of shares. But the target they were going to achieve was so conservative. I was like, you're like 3/4 from that now. You don't need my money to get there. Why the hell are you stealing my money? You get it? Because that's technically stealing, because they would have gotten there without that capital. So it's not actually investment capital, it's a cash out. And I'm not here to give away my money because I still need to make more of it, right? So that dollar amount should be based on what you know, right? And maybe a small buffer, right? What will it take for you to unlock, right?
Yeah.
That target in 24 months. Now, the other thing you want to be mindful of is you actually want to, and this is controversial, there's two trains of thought, right? When you go asking for money, you want to ask for as much as possible, as much as you can get away with, right? But the other thing is you have to not ask for too much, right? So what does that mean? As a financier or a strategy advisor to help capital raising, it is actually easier for me to find $10 to $100 million than it is for me to get 1 to 10 million pesos. Well, actually, the space in between, right? Because for the people with lots of money, they need lots of opportunities to deploy, right? For the people that are giving away $1 to $10 million, for them, that's their own fresh fortune, and it's dear to them. Does that make sense? Yes. Right? And so they're extra scrupulous about how that goes, because for them, it's a big bet. For the guys that have $100 million to deploy, right? That's actually the small bet. And unfortunately, there's a big gap in global funding in between, right? I can go into a whole lecture about how PE funds are driving down the equity markets for startups, and angels are getting squeezed out, blah, 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 blah. But the gist of it is this, right? That number that you're asking for should be ambitious so that it becomes worthwhile. Because as not just investors, but as founders, your primary constraint isn't capital, right? It's attention. It's not money, it's mental and management bandwidth. The amount of effort it will take me to study this deal, whether it's $1 million or $10 million, is about the same level of due diligence, because if I screw up, I still have to answer to my limited partners anyway. So if I'm gonna make a bet, if I'm gonna screw up, I may as well go big.
Yeah.
Right? But you, as a conservative founder, right, don't want to overcommit. So the technique, is very straightforward. And this is what I'm doing with the startups that collaborate with, or the founders that collaborate with me. Think through your 5-year plan, and then let's cluster it. So we can go to the investors and say, hey, here is $100 million opportunity. But for right now, all we need is $2 million. Give us 6 months to prove it, then we'll ask for the next 10. Then we'll grow and scale, then we'll ask for the balance 50. Right? And so me as an investor, I'll do the due diligence once, and I'll have my milestones worked out. So basically, I've locked out the capital. So I have invested capital to deploy that's standby. And when my LPs come, I'll go, here, it's earmarked for these guys. And look, they're hitting their milestones. I'm doing a good job. And then if we screw up along those, oh, you know what? We're not going to give them any more money because they didn't hit their milestones. So now we have this free capital to deploy somewhere else. Everybody wins. But that only happens because I'm very clear about what they want. And I try to be clear about what you want as a founder. And I want to be clear about what I want as the advisor that helps behind the scenes get things done without having to work as hard as you guys, so I can help, exponentially more people. Does that make sense, Tom?
Yeah, cool, thank you.
I hope that helped everyone, right? And now back to, thank you, Jana. So this is my framework for how to fast track your fundraising, right? And I'll get to your question in a moment, right? But just so you understand the map and the flow, right?
Yeah.
So visually, the way I organize this is, on the top half is the stuff that's kind of in your control, right? No, that's not how I do it. Let me just do it this way, right? So the first thing you have to look at is the market. Like, as I mentioned earlier, right? Is the problem you're solving worth solving, right? How do you know it's worth solving? Size. Is the opportunity big enough for people to care about? Appeal. Is it something that is sexy to other people, right? Is it growing or not growing? That being said, right? The markets don't always have to be growing to be worthwhile. Right? One of the startups I advised when they were not yet a startup was actually getting into landline phones.
What?
Yep. Landline phones.
Where?
Here's the trick, right? They're doing landline phones globally and connecting with VIP, and their clients are now the New York Times, NBA, global brands that have to have a global presence, right? And because, the world is the world, right? They still need a landline number to be registered and official, right? And they're leveraging that so that it becomes, for corporate headquarters, single point of contact anywhere in the world.
1-800 number.
Right? But, globally, landline phones are a dying business. But because it's a global opportunity and they've got a unique angle on it, they're growing incredibly fast. And they're now at the UN influencing telco policy. Right? That's a startup founded in the Philippines that I helped advise. Right? There's a lot of great guys and girls, women, people making a difference, right? That way, right? And then, why now, right? Are you solving a hair on fire problem that matters right now, right? I have another tool that I can share later called the Fat Canvas, which is basically the lean canvas, which looks at product market fit and adds the critical elements of the ecosystem to derive the value of timing, right? Because great ideas are only great or only useful when it's available at the right time, right? And then the management, you guys, right? You can spend a pitch talking about how big the problem is, but if you don't explain why you specifically and your team specifically are the right people to solve the problem, all you've effectively done is make life easier for your competition that pitches to me next. Because by the time I listen to them, I already understand the problem that you explained, and I'm evaluating the founders on, oh, are they taller than Tom? Are they whiter than Tom? Right? If yes, go, right? So are you the best people to do it, right? So do you have a relevant insight into the problem that other people don't see? Do you have a good character, someone that I can trust? Because at the end of the day, this is a long-term relationship, right? And then execution, because ideas are cheap. I have to know that you can deliver based on the traction you've achieved or the track record that you've built somewhere else, right? And then it goes up to the math, right? Which goes back to your ask, right? Is the price right? How much are you asking for? Is it enough to achieve the target you're committing, or is it too much, right? And if I don't give you the money right away, do you have runway to get the job done on your own, right? Because as I mentioned, not all angels are angelic. If I can wait you out so you'll take a better deal, it's in my best interest to wait it out to see how well you're doing. And again, innovation thrives in scarcity. I need to see how you do with limited resources, because hopefully with more money, you'll be able to do exponentially more, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense? So, and again, so that ties to the XYZ formulas we developed earlier, right? And then, even if you're able to achieve those targets that you set, for the long term, does your business model actually have a strategic moat, right? Do you have product market fit, right? Is it something that will sell? How's your unit economics? Are you building something that makes more money the more you sell? Or are you going deeper in the hole in the hope of things turning around, right? That's like playing poker and then hoping that it all turns on the river, right? And then last, business structure. Is the organization structured to scale, right? So do you have the organizational structure, the right humans, right? The right system and tools, the technology, right? And then the right SOPs and processes so that you can actually optimize, right? And then you've got all that worked out, right? Are you a match with me? So with angel investors, they have more flexibility because it's their own cash. If they burn it, the only one that's going to get mad at them is their children who lose out on their future inheritance, their spouses who don't get a nice ring or jewelry or vacation, right? But if it's a VC or an institutional investor, they have to answer to a limited partner. The general partner, the guy you're talking to, right? He has a job. He said, I'm going to go take your money and I will put it into these kinds of things for this kind of target return. The VC you're talking to, the individual, might love you, might love your idea, but if it's off thesis, one of two things can happen. He could be right, and you're a bloody unicorn, and everybody loves him and you, and says, wow, what a renegade. Good job. Right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, 9 out of 10 startups fail. And that might be you.
Right.
So the likely outcome is he makes a bet that's off contract. And so his LPs will go, oh my God, what a lying, untrustworthy bastard. Someone that does not understand the principles of fiduciary responsibility.
Right.
He said, I will spend my money on X, and he threw it away on that town guy because he was white and good looking. What the hell? Right? I will never give Joseph money again. Right? Don't worry, Tom. I'd probably give it to a girl because I'm weak. Right? So that's the first part. Then, again, we are still human though. VCs, corporate customers, they're corporate persons, but they're run by human people. And so they also want to know FOMO. Oh, you know what? Joseph De Leon's on your board of advisors. Let me look at this deal a little bit better. Right? So, I'm not saying I did it all by myself, but the startup I was talking about earlier, they were able to raise $1.1 million without even launching, and I'm not saying correlation is causation, I happen to be on their board of advisors, right? And maybe that helped.
Credibility, yeah.
Get them to the right people and go, oh, okay, Joseph doesn't do this for just anybody, so there must be a reason. Either the guy has blackmail material on Joseph, which I want, right? Or Joseph thinks these guys know what they're doing,
Yeah.
right? For what it's worth, right? Or I might not be interested in you, but you know what? As I said earlier, narrative, names, number, narrator. Oh, your biggest customer is a global brand? Okay, maybe I should look at you, right? And then the message, right? Is your invitation impactful, right? Your narrative, names, numbers. And those numbers, do they match your metrics, right? The numbers you're on track to achieve. How well does the rubber meet the road? Financially, that's top line revenue profitability, startup language, CAC to LTV, right? How much is your cost of acquisition compared to your lifetime value, right? What's your burn rate? What's your cap table? How fast are you throwing away money? And how much is that's going to end up with me, right? And what's your potential, right? The other numbers I look at are your traction in terms of your customer growth or your community if they're not paying yet, and your NPS score, your net promoter score. How likely are you to be recommended to friends and family? And then your factions, right? In this Game of Thrones, right? Who are you with, right? Who's your backer? Who's going to help you grow, right? And your attractions, right? What's the shiny thing I can sell to other investors, right? Or will get attention in the market? You have tangible, intangible, technical assets, right? You have a nice tit, right? Tangible, intangible, technical assets, right? Got it? So all those things come together, right? So to your question, right? You're a founder right now, building great connections. You think you know what you're doing, and you probably do. How do you start becoming your own VC, right? There's a couple of ways you can play the game, right? You can join Manila Angel Investors Network, and then I also happen to be the one that does a screening for potential members, right? So I have to assess whether, you know what, is this person going to make sound financial decisions, right? Are they going to accept that they are likely to lose money, or are they going to whine about it later? Right? Are you a goddamn grown-up? Yes or no? Right? Are you actually going to commit money, or are you just going to look around? Or are you just here to, find a future wife or husband, or try to make money off your own business? Right?
So you can't join Manila to find...
Sorry?
You can't join Maine to find a spouse.
That's a side effect, but it can't be your primary objective, right?
I have to reconsider, I think.
Yeah, right? And again, sorry, Tom, you're not my type, right? And then the other way to do it is to actually join Founder Institute, VC Lab, and they actually have a new program where you can actually participate as a portfolio VC in their established VC program. It's a rigorous program, you have to pay money, but they will shake you out and see if you're the right stuff. And basically, they're looking for whether you're able to bring something to the table in terms of A, attracting capital, right?
Right.
B, having an asymmetrical advantage in terms of deal flow, finding great startups, and C, being able to deliver asymmetrical value or advantage by having them come to you. Right?
Right.
Do you know something, have something that when people plug into you, they get supercharged? Right?
Yeah.
So if you have one or all of those things, then even with zero capital, right, it's technically possible now to be a VC through VC Lab.
Right, okay.
Right?
Cool. All right. Oh, yeah. Do you pay well?
I don't. I'm a cheap bastard, right?
All right. Honesty is good enough for me.
I help. I don't pay well at all. But the people that I partner with hopefully become very prosperous.
Yeah. Nice.
But I cost a lot.
Yeah.
I hope. Thanks, Tom.
Cool. Thank you, Joseph.
I hope that helped everyone. Again, you can screenshot this if you like, or you can go to bulletday.com and you can download the chart. I've built the guide now, and I'll implement more AI tools to make it easier for everyone. But yes, for now, this is what you can do. I hope that helped.
May hahabol pa po ba? Alright? So, sige. I'll remove lang for a while.
Welcome back, Earl.
Yes, I'm back again.
We miss you, John.
Yes, sir. Almost 2 hours rolling. So with everything with the Q&A part of the startups and all the questions from the founders here, why do you think it is important? What is the important role of incubators?
Incubators play a valuable role in being a safe space to F up. Again, whether you're in corporate debating stuff internally, right? Or you're a family business sorting things out at the dinner table, it is always best to figure out and make all your mistakes on the inside before you go outside in the market and get proven wrong. Because when you're screwing up on the inside, right, you're able to learn and fix it. Once your mistakes are public, it's harder to take it back, right? The other thing about being part of an incubator, being part of an incubator like Benilde is, it helps you understand and appreciate what you didn't know you didn't know. Because you're coming from a limited set of experience and you're plugging into a ecosystem that has a larger set of experiences, right? And then third, right, besides getting to see what you didn't know you didn't know, you're able to get the help you didn't know you actually needed. And I think that's the most valuable thing, right? I mean, before meeting Paul, I didn't appreciate that actually more startups in the Philippines should and could and should systematically unlock grants for non-dilutive equity, right? Not just from the Philippines, but from all over the world, right? So that happens in an incubator, right? At Founder Institute, I've had a lot of founders have a realization that, oh, you know what? After 3 months, the entire business I've built the last half year on was wrong, and that sucks. But I get the gift of pivoting, so the next year and next decade is building the right thing. Because the last business I looked at would only be worth $1 million. Now, the business I'm working on could be worth $100 million. Do you get it? Right? As if you're working with the right incubators and you have the right mindset, you're able to unlock more of your full potential. Right? So, when I applied my own strategy workshop to myself, right, I found that the value add that I am able to bring, right, is that I'm able to help entrepreneurs see things differently, right? See their elevated exponential potential, right? Because I've seen it more, I've had the privilege of seeing it more often all over the world and how that works compared to a lot of people. I'm not better than you guys, please. You're smarter, better looking, taller than me, no doubt. But I'm older and I've gotten to see more people screw up and make it. So I have a bigger database that I can use to help you grow, right? And I'm not the most brilliant person in them. There are other great people in the ecosystem who can help you. And a lot of them who are committed, organized into incubators like Benilde HIFI to make that available to you, because we have this crazy idea that, you know, by helping others succeed, we make the world a better place.
All right, thank you. So now you know, apply for Benilde HIFI. So yes. Speaking of ecosystem already, since you mentioned already, so we had the founder part, investor part, incubator part. But for Benildians or students or like those who have money who doesn't know what to do with their money, how can they start on exploring the VC or being a limited partner?
So let me explain the distinction between being an angel investor and a limited partner, right? To be an angel investor, practically, it'll cost $5,000 because that's in the Philippines the minimum block that we recommend for our angels, so that you can put it into a pot, so that it becomes $100,000 that can help a startup scale, right? But that doesn't stop you. Like if you want to help somebody potentially transform their life, please do that, right? There was a coconut vendor on the street whose stock got wiped out because of a typhoon, and I invested 10,000 pesos to him so he could restock, and so that I could get free coconuts for a couple of years, right? It doesn't have to be big, and it can make a big difference. And if you feel that that's a worthwhile use of your capital, please do it. If you're too hesitant to do that, you can go on kiva.org, lend money, make interest, then lend it again, right? And I've been able to deploy tens of thousands of dollars with that, right? So it's up to you, right? Now, as an angel or as an individual, there's no floor on your generosity, right? To be a limited partner, the expectations are a little bit larger, right? Anywhere from $25,000 to $250,000 to $1 million, depending on the fund, right? So that's the first differentiation, right? How much it costs to wear the badge, right? Next, there's also the amount of the trade-off of exposure and impact, right? As an angel investor, right, because you're making a personal connection, you can choose to be 0 to 100% committed to helping that startup or founder, right? If you want to turn them into your wife, that's between you and God and her, right? If you're a limited partner, your access to the founders becomes much more constrained because it has to go through the gatekeeper of the GP and the fund. Because the whole point of the fund is so that the founder doesn't have to deal with 1,000 people, but he wants to get money from 1,000 people in one place, in one channel, right? And so your impact also becomes, blunted unless you're a super angel and they come to you first, right? So, like in our angel investor network, we have great super angels there, like Jojo Malolos, who's running PayMongo now with a great track record. So when he's on board, founders and startups and even VCs, right? Beg for his attention and insight because he's been there, done that, and it's incredibly powerful for them to take advantage of that, right? They don't come running to my door because, I'm not the smartest person in that room, right? So similarly, you have limited opportunities to help in that sense, right? Then the third is in terms of exposure. As an angel investor, right, if you're working on your own, you will only be able to capture your convenience set. The number of startups that happen to know you have money and your friends happen to know and they pass them your way. If you become part of Manila Angel Investors Network or a similar group, of which there are quite a few that you might want to participate in, then you get access to curated deal flow, right? So what that means is every quarter, you don't get to see 100 startups, but you get to see 3 to 5 startups that were already chosen to be worth looking at, right? Suckers like me have to look at the hundreds of startups and decide, what the hell do we do with this, right? Where can they go? How can we help them, right? And then if you're part of a VC, depending on how it's structured, you might not even see the startups at all You're just looking at your NAV, your net asset value, and find out later, oh, I invested in Tesla. I'm so smart, right? But you'd have no clue, right? Or you can, like for example, I once got invited to do a Zoom call with the Winklevoss twins, the guys that found Facebook and talk about Bitcoin. And then of course I took the advantage to make a joke about, hey, how do you know Bitcoin's not like MySpace, right? And promptly never get invited to those calls again, right? So again, as a LP, your exposure is controlled by the people that are the gatekeepers, versus if you're an angel or part of a network, you have a greater level of access or exposure, right? So to recap, amount of capital required, right? Level of involvement, and then the exposure to the opportunity, like how much deal flow you get to look at and whether you like it or not. So like Founder Institute, there's a lot of VCs or funders who are in the FI global network, and they decided, you know what? This whole startup game is a goddamn mess. To simplify my decision making, I will only look at startups from all over the world that have completed the FI core program. Because at least I know some other smart people have, taken care of the basics at least, right?
All right. So you said earlier that the whole podcast is about you've been here for 10 years already. What is the potential of the startup ecosystem in the Philippines and the evolution within those 10 years?
Let me unpack that. Right? Are you asking how it's evolved or how I think it's going to evolve 10 years from now? Or are you asking both?
Both.
Okay, got it. So, in terms of where it was when I started versus where it is now, I like to think that when I got into the game, it was like a dumb tween. Right? The startup ecosystem was like, oh my God, anything is possible. Right? My beard's just come out, I'm starting to get guapo, or I'm starting to blossom. Anything is possible. The whole world is out there for me because I'm young and beautiful. Right? And then, over the last decade, they get pimples and they get hit by the real world where, you know what, if you look around, the sexy cheerleaders are actually the ones in Indonesia. Right? The nerds that are getting all the money are the Vietnamese guys, right? The ones that are naturally rich, like the preppies. Sorry, it's an old reference, but the preppies would be the guys from Singapore because they're the favored sons of like the European Western markets, right? Us Filipinos, we have to be our own cool crowd in the middle, right? And so. And I think that's where we're at now, right? We're at a stage where we are getting a clearer sense of who we are as individuals and as an ecosystem. And we're beginning to appreciate that we don't have to be just a copycat to other successful players. One of my submissions as I do this, right, is that I am trying to help us as Filipinos recraft our narrative. So what do I mean by that, right? So in general, again, this is a generalization, right? Europeans project themselves in the world as the great explorers. We discovered everything that was already there. America, India, all these spices and flavors, right? And they all belong in the British Museum, right? That's the Europeans, right? The Americans, they see themselves as great entrepreneurs, right? Oh, we built great oil. We built great telcos, right? All the biggest tech is coming from Silicon Valley, right? China has its own story. Russia has its own story, right? And Filipinos, what's the narrative that we get known for? Oh, we are the martyrs. We're the hardest working, sweetest people making sacrifices so that, people back home can eat. I'm not saying that's not true. I'm not saying that's not noble. What I'm saying is that's not enough. What I'm saying is that we deserve to tell ourselves a better story. I'm saying that we deserve to craft our own narrative for what it means to be Filipino, right? And what I'm hoping it is, and I'm not saying I've figured it out, I'm hoping we all figure it out together, right? Because I don't trust myself, right? Is that hopefully our narrative becomes 5-10 years from now, oh wow, they're Filipino, and the subtext is, right? These are people that are actually making meaningful innovations, right? They're doing remittances that are fair and low cost so that it can help everybody, right? That they're building a community platform that doesn't sell sex, right? But lets individuals explore their own talent, find their own community, have their own little kumu, right? Where they can build their own incomes and make money for themselves and put their siblings through school. They're not trying to be like Mr. Beast, right? But they also don't have to go do, right, Vitaly style stunts to get attention or bare their bodies or sell their souls. They just have to be themselves, right? And so I hope that, you know, when you're building something, that you're going to be part of that journey of saying, you know what, we're building something that will be a meaningful innovation that will make, that's incredibly valuable, but does not compromise our personal values. So again, that's my own high horse, you know, so for what it's worth.
All right, thank you so much. For our last question, since we're really talking about startups, and we call startups a startup company, but when is the time, this is the last question, so to wrap up this, when is the time when the term startup will be removed?
That's an excellent question. I don't have a great answer for that. Because I think being a startup is not defined by the stage of your business, like by how many people you have in the founding team, number of employees, or even number of customers. I don't think being a startup is defined by your revenue size, right, or your profitability. I think the difference of being a startup is in terms of your mindset and your approach to scaling. So fundamentally, I believe, or in my own mind, I think your business is a startup as long as you and your organization are on a mission to find ways to scale exponentially rather than on a step function basis, right? So that you're able to achieve and unlock exponential results with less, right? Because if you're going on a step function basis, right, then you're a great traditional business, right? And that being said, there are many businesses in Silicon Valley, right, that might be on the NASDAQ who've grown, gotten comfortable, and might have the startup label, but have given up that startup mindset and have like a conglomerate mindset, right? Where they're operating more based on everything being a analysis paralysis, make or life decision every step of the way. So they start taking a year to innovate or deploy changes as opposed to, 2 days to 6 months like they used to, because they just got top heavy and scared. They became beholden to the shareholders instead of being beholden to the end user.
All right. Thank you. Let's give a round of applause for Mr. Joseph. All right. So to wrap up our session, do you want to promote something? Promote. So it is time for us to promote.
Gosh, I have so much to promote. So, join Benilde HIFI.
Yay!
Then, when you finish, go to fi.co/Philippines to get $25,000 in Google Cloud credit. Our next cohort will probably start in July this year. But if you sign up now, you'll get in cheaper, right? And then, when you've got a paying customer, send your deck to pitch@main.ph. And then when you're ready to scale up and professionalize and get serious about making real money, become my client at bulletday.com. And when we're all really rich together and you want to retire, and sell your business, let's IPO or you want to acquire something else, right? Then go to gravitasprime.com.
All right, thank you so much. So I would like also to promote, if you guys are startups, students who are looking for, if you are interested on entering the startup ecosystem, we're promoting the startup and actually mentoring program that we have also. And we also have internship and volunteer program. So we are open this term for more students and more mentors and more startups. So please go to bit.ly/bigboxbenilde if you guys are interested. Again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.